You're going to showboat, knock down the shot.
For what his value is, it doesn't equate to winning basketball.
When you're talking about the greatest of greats, that's what you have to do. You have to nitpick.
We'll see you in the playoffs. We'll see you in the playoffs.
So now we've given you our Western Conference predictions for playoff teams. So now let's move over to both of our, I guess you should say our home conference, I guess, both of our main teams that we follow in that Eastern Conference. So let's just do what we did last time, and let's start at the top. Who do you have taken home at number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference?
Well, given everything that's happened in the East offseason, I have the Bucks retaking the top spot in the NBA Eastern Conference.
Ooh.
I mean, they were one of the best teams last year. They probably would have gone farther in the playoffs if it wasn't for Chris Middleton going out early against the Chicago Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just Giannis is going to continue to be, in my opinion, the best player in the league. And I don't see any reason why the Bucks would fall out of the top seed. So that might be the one spot out of like this entire playoff bracket or conference rankings where I'm gonna iron in a team, like just stamp it. So you can put my stamp on that. Bucks are gonna be the 1 seed this year.
I will say, so as far as the Bucks go, I still think they're one of the best teams in the league come postseason. I do not have them as my number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. I have Miami. I know it's my hometown. It's not my hometown team. I know it's my favorite team. I'm going with Miami, and I have reasons for it. They re-signed Vic Oladipo, which for a lot of people, that's not a big deal, but he plays a really key part as kind of that second guard off the bench with Tyler Hero. Re-signed Dwayne Dedmon, backing up Bam Adebayo, just kind of reaffirming that depth that they have. They re-upped Tyler Hero on a nice little contract. A lot of people maybe that weren't following the NBA too close, Tyler Hero got paid now, which was always kind of a question as, one, how big was that contract going to be? 2, could the negotiations go south and we see Tyler Hero out of Miami? That's done now. He's been locked up for the foreseeable future. I do not like that they lost PJ Tucker, and I think that it's a possibility that we could see him end up getting replaced by our old buddy Jay Crowder. We'll see how that kind of works out. They kind of play similar roles.
He wants to go there.
So that is going to hurt, losing PJ Tucker. That's no doubt. But this is one of, if not the deepest benches in the NBA. Jimmy wants to get back to the top. Jimmy is now 33 years old. He wants another shot at a championship while he is still playing at the top of his game. He came just inches away from sending home the Boston Celtics too on a 3 that he pulled up on in a game in a series Miami had no business at winning. Almost got it done, almost sent them to the finals. And I know they probably would have lost to the Warriors, but to get back there and to have another shot, that's what Jimmy Butler wants more than anything. I'm not saying they will hands down just be the best team in the Eastern Conference. I think that's kind of the distinction I'm looking at. But in the regular season, I see them being so locked in with a renewed focus under Coach Spo. I see them locking down this top seed in the Eastern Conference because they know that if they want to get back to the top, home court advantage is very important to them. So I know that's one thing they're going to be shooting for throughout the entire of the regular season. So I have Miami as my number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference.
Now, normally in a normal state of mind, I would have Miami as my number 2 seed.
Okay.
But for every team that I'm going to put ahead of them, I'm going to explain why.
Go ahead.
I'm going to back this up.
You're good.
So at number 2, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, here's why. Joel Embiid, in my opinion, is a clear top 5 player in this league.
Agreed.
And he's going to continue to be as productive as we've seen him the last couple seasons. He's been healthier than he has been in past years. I'm expecting that to continue. And also, I think we're going to see more of a bought-in James Harden than we've seen in the last couple seasons.
We hope. We better.
We better.
He's where he wants to be. He better.
Now, like I said, these next 2 picks that I have, it's going to be like blind faith, and these I really might as well just bite me in the ass. Could happen very easily. I'm aware of that, but I'm taking a risk. I think Harden, we're going to see the best he's played in the last couple seasons. He took less money, so Philadelphia could put together a better roster and give them more wiggle room if they want to be in the trade market for other pieces. So I think if Harden's willing to do that, he's probably willing to make more of an effort on the court. He'll have more time to gel with this Philadelphia team, which we didn't see towards the end of last season because he was acquired basically at the trade deadline. So I have the 76ers at my number 2.
I am in full agreement with you. I got Philadelphia as my number 2 team. They picked up PJ Tucker and Montrezl Harrell, which Montrezl kind of came in as that late addition. They're going to add some toughness to this team. I mean, Joel Embiid and James Harden. Joel is a tough player as well. Don't get me wrong. Harden hasn't really been seen like that in the past, but they have some size. And what I like too is they have PJ Tucker and Montrezl Harrell play bigger than they actually are. Like Montrezl kind of plays that 5 role, but he's more sized like a 4, maybe even a 3 when it comes to it. PJ Tucker, we've seen his entire career is playing down there in the 5, and he's only like what 6'5". Like
that's being generous.
He's way undersized in his position, but he's been effective. Obviously, he's been around the league for a very long time. So listen, I still don't think that Harden is back to being a top tier player. I don't think he'll ever get back to that level. But I think he will get better in this offense as time goes on. Their bench is as talented as anybody else on their best days. Tyrese Maxey is going to continue to develop alongside these guys as well. Joel Embiid is going to be right in the hunt for an MVP, just like he was the last couple of seasons as well. He might just get it as well. So we'll see kind of how things go. I'm in a full agreement with you. I think Philadelphia is going to have a very good regular season. They're going to be right there in that number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference.
Now, like I said before, normally I would probably have the Miami Heat right after the Philadelphia 76ers.
All right.
But I'm taking another risk. I'm risking the Brooklyn Nets. Now, hear me out. Hear me out before you laugh at me.
I'm hearing you.
All right.
I'm hearing you.
The one thing I have not understood is the renaissance of questioning Kevin Durant as a top player in the NBA, because we started off last season all the way up through like the winter when he was like hurt and the Nets were floundering without him. We're like, yeah, Kevin Durant might be up there with Giannis, if not the best player in the NBA right now. And then somewhere between that playoff loss, which there were just more than just Kevin Durant struggling. There was just a bunch of stuff with that Nets team at that time, missing key players and stuff like that. But all of a sudden, ever since Kevin Durant's like fallen to the floor of the top 10 in the NBA, like I don't understand how that's happened. We haven't seen a regression in this game. Kevin Durant is still like, he's, I think, going on 33, 34, but his game has not aged. He's a great shooter. He can handle the ball well. There's nothing about his game that says, oh yeah, Kevin Durant's just not as good as Kevin Durant's been. He's as good as he's ever been. It's a ridiculous conversation to say otherwise. We're going to see Kyrie hopefully for most of this is banking on Kyrie being available for most of the season, not having some weird Dennis Rodman-esque breakaway from the team.
It's a tough bet.
Because there's like no COVID restrictions in the NBA as far as I'm aware, to where he wouldn't be playing. I'm also kind of predicting that Ben Simmons is going to return, at least on the defensive end, to a all-star level talent, at least as a defender, if not the full Ben Simmons we've seen in the past. And then they've had some nice additions to the roster that kind of gone under the radar. I think the TJ Warren acquisition, he hasn't played in like 2 seasons, but I think that's a pretty big piece you can add to that team. And they've kind of cleared out a lot of the aging veterans that just did not help that roster. I mean, we saw Paul Millsap moved at the deadline. LaMarcus Aldridge isn't back. Goran Dragic isn't back. Blake Griffin's on the Celtics now. So they have a lot more spots for younger talent to develop. So yeah, I have the Nets at 3. Sorry, Miami.
No, it's all right. Number 3, Durant, Irving, and Simmons. Barring the health of these 3 guys, the availability of those 3, the Brooklyn Nets could very possibly be higher than 3. At the top, we all know this is an all-star team. Like, they really are. And in the regular season, that should mean a very good regular season. They should be just destroying a lot of the mediocre teams in the NBA on, a Tuesday in November. Like, that's the way they should be doing, because it's just the talent of those 3 guys alone. Come postseason, it's going to be another story, and we'll get to that when we get to that. But on paper, in the regular season, this should be a very good team. Those 3 guys on the court, obviously Ben Simmons is going to help out on the defensive end. He can really guard 1 through 5 as kind of the 6'10" point guard that he is going to be for that team. A key for that, though, just something to watch. I don't think it's going to be too bad, but I think if they let Kyrie Irving essentially play the 2 and have Ben Simmons get back to being the distributor he was at the beginning of his career, they could be a really dangerous team, especially if things stay together. But if there's one thing I know about Brooklyn, when things fall apart, they fall apart quickly. So we'll see how things go. But on paper, I'm with you. This is the third best team in the Eastern Conference.
Man, I am pleasantly surprised for the most part that we're kind of agreeing on some of the more controversial stuff. At least I thought was controversial for my list.
No, we're right there, man.
All right. I'm gonna throw you a bone. I'm finally gonna play some Miami Heat. I believe
That's
I
all right.
had them at 4 last year. And like you said, there's a lot to like about this roster in terms of their depth. I think that Tyler Hero contract's going to age really well for a lot of the naysayers saying, "Oh my God, you're going to pay him like what, $30 million a year or whatever that number is."
Up, man.
The cap's going to go up to where $30 million a year is going to be like mid-level, and you're going to be like, "Awesome, we're paying Tyler Hero 30."
It's a team-friendly contract, absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to age very well. Which also I can't wait to see what's going to be like that first round of like Luol Deng level, Joakim level, Chandler Parsons level contracts that are just so bad when they're signed when that cap does spike. Like, I can't wait to see who those players are, because if you guys remember those contracts, they were not good.
Timothy Mozgov.
Yeah, Timothy Mozgov was another one. Anyway, getting back to the Heat, like you said, very deep roster. Jimmy Butler is that guy, one of my favorite players in the NBA, who willed that team to the playoffs. And if it wasn't for a couple inches, probably would have been in the NBA Finals again for the second time in 3 years. This Heat team obviously can surpass me putting them at 4, and I wouldn't be shocked at all if they did. I think they could go as high as 2 because, like I said, I have the Bucks locked in at 1. But a lot to like about this Heat team, lot to like about Jimmy Butler. Hats off to that man for trolling the NBA media because it's funny because I was setting up my NBA League Pass last night, and then I went into like select players I want to follow closely, and that profile picture for Butler has got the dreads, and it's going to be like that all year. So it's funny. All right, on to you.
I'm with you, man. At my 4 seed, I'm gonna go. This one might be a little controversial too. I'm gonna go Cleveland Cavaliers. They came out of nowhere last year. I love what they did, and they added a bona fide scorer in Donovan Mitchell. Notice I said bona fide scorer, not bona fide star, because there are a lot of holes in Donovan Mitchell's game. But what he's going to be able to do is he's going to be able to, down the stretch of close games, take the ball and get a bucket. And I think for a young team that's still learning how to play together, had a lot of early success, and some of their key guys, scoring isn't kind of their number one de facto thing that they go to. That's the best thing that they do in the NBA. So I think Donovan Mitchell is going to be able to fill that role as kind of the closer. They're still a very young team. They were humbled a little bit late last year, kind of went on this, I don't want to say Cinderella run, but no one saw Cleveland kind of doing what they were doing last season. So I think another year of Mobley, Allen, Garland, they're just going to continue to get better together. And I like what they're doing over there in Cleveland. I think Donovan Mitchell fills a huge hole on that roster, which is why I kind of wanted to see Miami maybe get into that, because that's the same hole on Miami's roster you saw down the stretch. They just needed a guy to get a shot. That's what Donovan Mitchell can definitely do in the NBA. So I got Cleveland there at number 4.
At number 5, I have the Boston Celtics. I was wondering where I was going to put them on this list as I was going through, because I think the biggest story of this team and why they're not towards the top of this conference is going to be coaching. We saw how much of an impact coaching had last season for the Celtics when they were so slow out of the gates, blowing big leads. The team just wasn't meshing to where they had like a players only meeting, I think by like late November.
Yeah.
Things were not looking good for Boston. Jace was feeling pretty good about himself. You should have heard. Everybody's like, look at that. They're still out of the playoff pictures. And then boom, they just flew up the rankings. It was because Ime Udoka, that hard-nosed coach that's like no bullshit, all business, got that team together and helped coach them into the NBA Finals. He's not going to be on the sideline this year, and I think that is a huge storyline. Yes, the Celtics roster got better. They added Malcolm Brogdon, which I think is huge because, let's be honest, Marcus Smart really isn't like the point guard you need. And it also gives the Celtics a ball handler, where hopefully they'll rely a lot less on Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum holding that ball, because let's be honest, that was so. I'm so sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry to Boston fans, because all the other great teams they have every year, we dealt with the Patriots.
Never feel bad for Boston.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. I even said I'm sorry, Boston fans. Never mind. Wait, whoa. I'm just being way too. I've gone soft, I guess. It's just that was just rough to watch as
Yeah.
a basketball fan, just those two holding onto the ball. So I have the Celtics at 5, even though the roster got better. Everything else around it did not.
Yeah, we continue this, man. It might be, some people might say it's disrespectful to have the Eastern Conference champs at number 5, but I'm right there with you. Boston Celtics. I love the roster. I was pissed off about their additions of Malcolm Brogdon because I was like, how did they get him for so cheap? He's a great player. I like Blake Griffin kind of on that bench, seeing what he can do. Danilo Gallinari as well. But I think what they did last year was so dependent on their team first defense and buying into the team as a whole. And I think losing Udoka, you touched on it, it was perfect. It's going to hurt. And not only is he not going to be on the sidelines, he's not going to be associated with the team for the next year. So I get you can kind of have your interim coach try to fill that position, try to do the same exact thing, but you just can't really make up, I think, what his value is to that team. Where there's some other teams where losing their head coach for a year might not be that big of a difference. They might be able to just say, hey, we've been here, we've done that. But I think what Boston does, they are so dependent on the scheme of things and buying in as a whole, it's really going to affect them. So I think they're a really good team, but I think having them at 5 is the right spot. And I like that we both have them right there.
Yeah. So some eyes are probably going to roll for this one, but I can't not. I have my Chicago Bulls at number 6.
Okay.
Now, I'm not exactly all on board with what happened this offseason because if you look around the East, a lot of teams got better. The additions that the Sixers made, which that was a team that Chicago struggled mightily against because of the size of the team, having Joel Embiid, and the only thing they did was add size, which hurts. Brooklyn obviously getting better, Miami getting better, the Celtics getting better. And the Bulls, really all they did was add Andre Drummond, who is still the same player he's always been, although he doesn't fully change or bring to the team what the team was lacking, which is 3-point shooting and rim protection, which is what the Bulls desperately needed last season.
Absolutely.
As we saw, size was a big problem. Now, he does bring rebounding, which is something the team definitely was lacking at times. Oh, I can't tell you how many times Milwaukee got an offensive board, and we just couldn't get out of the possession. It was awful to watch. But Drummond should help alleviate some of those issues. Goran Dragic, not the greatest shooter, but depending on his health at this age and just how many minutes he can play, he could be a decent option at the 1, especially with possibly not seeing Lonzo Ball until January or even later. Who knows what's going to happen?
Even if this season, yeah.
Yeah. I still think we'll see Lonzo this season. I'm praying we'll see Lonzo this season. Now, the one thing that is good for this Bulls team is we saw this team gel really well at the start of the season last year after basically being a completely new construction of a roster. Now they've only just had another year and an offseason to gel one is basically the same core. I hope we see Vooch change his game up a little bit, take less outside shots, which he was really struggling from 3 last year. And it was just leading to a lot of just missed opportunities for that Chicago team. Alex Caruso is probably going to see more minutes, which could be a good thing. Hopefully he stays healthy. If Grayson Allen stays the hell out of his way, Ayo Dosunmu is going to be starting, and he was a pleasant surprise last season and is probably going to take another step this year. So I'm excited for this Bulls season, regardless of all the question marks surrounding it. I can't put Cleveland ahead of them, so I got the Bulls at number 6.
I got you, man. Anybody following along for mine might have noticed that there's been a name that has not been said yet. So I'm going to stop the free fall here, and that's going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. They're going to be right there as my number 6 team. The Bucks, honestly, they go as Giannis goes, and I think losing Middleton for the playoffs last year really hurt them and kind of had a lot of people buying low, especially when they push Boston to the 7-game series even without him. I really like the Ingles addition, just more shooting surrounding Giannis and everything else that they're doing. But this is the main reason why I have them as low as I do. I think this team will be more focused on being healthy for the postseason than anything else. I think they're going to look at what happened last season and realize, hey, we were a front runner. We were definitely a title contender. We lost our number 2 guy real early on. I think they're going to focus more on health than trying to push for regular season wins. I think they're a team that's experienced enough and have done it enough on the road that they're not going to be super worried about we have to lock down home court advantage. I think they're a good enough team they can essentially just kind of turn it on. And I don't want to say coast because that kind of has a negative connotation to it, but just kind of work their way through the regular season, not really have to fight too much to say we got to be in the top 3, we got to get up there, we got to be at least in the top 4 to get up there. I think they're going to just kind of take it easy. They're going to win games just because of how talented they are and how Giannis being the best player in the league is. I think that they're not going to be focused on being that top 3 seed. I like them right here at 6 out of that play-in tournament and just focusing on making sure everybody is healthy for that playoff run because they want another championship. Giannis wants another championship. So that's my reasoning behind having the Bucks as low as I do. It's not that they have a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. I think every team that I have listed above them is hungrier regular season wise, which is how I have them kind of coming through in the standings.
All right. At number 7, which this is probably a team that, like I said, and with the West, this is a team with a lot of boom potential, just based on the additions to this roster and how young their core is and how strong that young core is, because I think it's the best young core in the NBA. I have the Cleveland Cavaliers at number 7. I couldn't put them ahead of my Chicago Bulls. Yeah, that's my bias kind of leaking through a little bit, but there's a little bit of method to my madness. This team is still really young. There are questions about Donovan Mitchell's ability at times, especially on the defensive end, as we saw in the playoffs, which is it's concerning because we've coming into the NBA, one of the things that Donovan Mitchell was kind of touted for was like his ability as a defender. And that's completely eroded ever since then. So this Cavs team, it's pretty deep, and it's only getting deeper. Great coaching. I mean, Bickerstaff probably should have been coach of the year.
He was great.
He was fantastic all year long, experimenting with like that almost 3 center lineup.
Yeah.
With Lauri Markkanen playing the 3. Lauri's no longer there. He's on to his 3rd NBA team in his very underwhelming career. In Utah, best of luck to him there. I have no ill will against him, but what a waste of a Jimmy Butler trade pick.
He's gonna get some minutes there, I'll tell you that much.
Well, yeah. So this is put up or shut up for him, which it was funny because I was seeing, not to talk about the Jazz too much, but there's forget who put it out there. I think it was Bleacher Report.
Yeah.
And they're like top 10 breakout players, and Lauri Markkanen was 3rd or 4th on there. And it's his 7th year.
He's got minutes, man.
Come on. He is what he is. Man. Getting back to the Cavs, we saw Jared Allen and Winston Garland. I'm sorry, Darius Garland.
Darius.
I've been playing a lot of my NBA eras lately, so a lot of classic players. So just names float. Darius Garland. We saw Jared Allen, Darius Garland take that next step, becoming first-time All-Stars. So there's a lot for this team to build on. They missed out on the playoffs by falling from, I believe, the 8th seed and just losing in the play-in tournament, which has to hurt, especially if you were in what is originally slotted to be a playoff spot.
Absolutely.
This team's going to be hungry to get back into more of a guaranteed position so they don't find themselves where they found themselves last year. Even though I have them in the play-in,
I was about to say,
this team could very well rise above that.
Got you. At the top of my play-in, I'm going to go with your Chicago Bulls. I think that's kind of the sweet spot for them as I kind of look at the roster and everything going on around them. Health is the key in this one. We know what's going on with Lonzo leaving that hole at point guard. I really hope that Ayo can fill that in. I really like him as a player. Obviously, I liked him a lot at University of Illinois as well. So I still love DeMar and Zach, what they can do in the court. This team has some holes, and you touched on it as well. I don't think that they fixed them in this offseason, went out and got rim protection. I don't think that is a huge hole that it seems like everybody knows about. It's not like one of these hidden things. It's known right now that Chicago does not protect the rim well. It's just known. That's just known throughout the league. So I think at the top of the play-in, to me, is the perfect spot there for the Chicago Bulls, in my opinion. I got him right there at number 7.
All right. At number 8, I have the Toronto Raptors. I think this team is a little overrated by everyone else but myself, and obviously you too, as you have not said them yet.
No.
But there's a lot to like about this team. It's not going to be a contender. I think this is a team that should be growing towards something rather than trying to realistically compete for an NBA championship, because they have probably one of the most intriguing pieces going forward in the NBA, which is Scotty Barnes, who has a pretty high ceiling, in my opinion. He could develop into a superstar one day, if you ask me. And I think they should just continue to build around that. Pascal Siakam is an all NBA level talent who had a great second half of the season. But I'm not expecting much out of this Raptors team. I don't have high expectations for them, but I think that's fair. They just don't have, at the moment, they don't have what a lot of these other teams ahead of them that I've listed in the East, which is superstar level talent. Yes, I'm throwing players like DeMar DeRozan, and just based on the wealth of talent the Cavs have, just with like 3 all-star, maybe even 4 all-star level players on that roster, we'll just kind of bump them up there with that. The Raptors just don't have that true like star. Like Pascal Siakam's a nice player. Scotty Barnes is a nice player, but they're both not there yet.
Yeah, I got you. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. So at my number 8, I got Atlanta. I was high on the Hawks last year, and it really came back to bite me. I went back and looked at it. I think I had them as like my 6th seed, and I had Nate McMillan winning Coach of the Year. So if that just kind of goes to show what my predictions looked like last year, I think they got better. I think DeJounte and Trey will make a really nice combo. I kind of like what they're going to be doing in that backcourt. I think last year was kind of a reload year, and I look to see a bounce back from them a little bit. In that playoff tournament, I like them sitting in that 8 spot. I think that's a perfect spot for them. You got 2 all-star caliber players in that backcourt. It's going to be all about them gelling. It's going to be the health of John Collins as well down low, seeing what they can do. So I think an 8 spot is a nice fit here for Atlanta. And I know it came back to bite me last year, and it very well might this year as well, but I got Atlanta right there at 8.
So I have Atlanta right at 9. And now a lot of you are like, why are you always so low on the Hawks? Well, hey, I'm higher on the Hawks this year than I was last year, because last year I had them at 10.
That's
so
true.
They're at 9
Moved
now.
up 1.
Yeah. So the DeJounte Murray trade swung them up 1. I'm just not really high on this roster. I have a lot of questions about Trae Young as a leader, and I've never really been a big believer in this team. I like Nate McMillan as a coach, but at the same time, I have concerns about. I just have so many concerns about this roster, and the East, like I said, even though this is one of the teams that did improve and did get better, I don't think they're that good. There's just the continued issue of whether they're going to move John Collins or not. That's always been in the conversation of just him wanting to leave and them trying to find a spot and a trade partner for him. So that's going to be something to watch again this season. I'm not a big Hawks guy. I don't see it. I have the Hawks at 9.
I got you. And the way that we looked at it, we just flipped our 8 and 9. That's fine. I got Toronto there, my number 9 spot in that play-in tournament. They're just solid, man. They're a solid team throughout. Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, Chris Boucher, Pascal Siakam, Gary Trent Jr. Like, they have probably built, and I don't know if anybody's ever used this analogy, they probably built the least top-heavy roster in the NBA. Like, we talk about top-heavy rosters all the time, and, Brooklyn and the Lakers and things like that. They have probably the least top-heavy roster in the NBA, which isn't great for the postseason, but I think it's definitely good enough to get them into the play-in tournament, especially when you got, 10 teams that are going to be in there. So I got them there at number 9, pretty much echoing exactly what you said. They are just a good team, solid throughout. They just do not have that star power that Kawhi Leonard gave them when they went on that championship run a few years ago. So I got them right there at number 9.
Don't tell the Raptors fans that. They don't like to hear that. They think their team is the greatest team since sliced bread.
They have so many good players. So many good players.
Also, don't tell them that historically their franchise is a bottom 10 franchise. They don't like that either.
Well, yeah. They got a chip, though. They got a chip. Can't take that away from them.
Man. I'm sorry. I love throwing shots at Toronto Raptors fans. Yeah. Yeah, you guys cheered when Durant got hurt. Y'all are pitiful sometimes. Oh man,
number 10, man. Who's
number
at the bottom
10
of your play-in?
Number 10 at the bottom of my play-in, which still is a team full of nice pieces, just a lot of question marks, is the Washington Wizards. Bradley Beal, obviously a very nice player that definitely made that money, and he stayed home in Washington D.C., which got a day in Washington D.C. named after him for his contributions to the community. So shout out to him for that. I like to see player loyalty, but I'm wondering if it's more loyalty to the organization or just there's like 300 million reasons why
Yeah.
he wouldn't leave. So the Wizards have some nice pieces, like I said, Kristaps Porzingis, Kyle Kuzma, but the question is fit and how this team is just going to gel together. This was the hottest roster for like 2 weeks last season, where they're top of the Eastern Conference, and then the bottom kind of fell out from under them. I'm not expecting a lot from this Wizards team, so that is why I have them at 10. Also, you may have noticed the Knicks aren't on here. Free my boy Derrick Rose.
Oh man. So I'm gonna close out my top 10 here with a team I've been on record of, and you might be able to know where I'm going with this. Give that 10th spot to my team, the Detroit Pistons, baby.
Oh,
They are a sneaky team. They are frisky, and they're going to be that this year. I like what they got brewing up there. Cade Cunningham is a stud. Jaden Ivey's a dog. Sadiq Bey is a sleeper. They got a good amount of solid role players on that roster. They're still very, very young, but I see this team taking a step forward this year, get to the bottom of that play-in, look at it as, hey, we don't have it yet. We're still young. We're still missing some pieces. Obviously, we are not a contender. But if you can get that team to the bottom of that play-in, they'll start to buy in. They'll start to believe. I see big things coming for Cade Cunningham. I have been on record with it. And they are just too talented. They're not going to be in that tank for Vic type of class. They're going to be, hey, we got some guys. We're building. Let's make a step forward. So I see them sliding in there as my number 10 team in that Eastern Conference. Let's move on a little bit here to our awards prediction now. We'll run through these. So, man, who do you have taken home now that we've talked about all of the teams that we're going to have? Who do you have taken home the most valuable player award this year?
So the most valuable player award I have this year, I have Steph Curry. And here's why. The Warriors are going to be one of the top teams in the West, and the main catalyst, of course, without debate for that reason, is going to be Steph Curry. We saw him have one of the best playoff runs of his career, culminating in him finally winning his finals MVP award that has been a long time coming. Probably should have happened in 2015, say what you will. But yeah, so Steph, the voters are back in full, just loving Steph Curry mode. He's like reaching all-time levels of all-time NBA like respect. I would say across a whole NBA fan base.
Yeah.
I think the voters are really going to be favorable in a Steph Curry MVP conversation this year.
I don't hate that, but this is going to be the year of Luka Doncic. He is primed to become the face of the league right alongside Giannis, and that's going to culminate in him taking home that most valuable player of the year award. He's been playing overseas all offseason. He looks to be in great shape heading into opening day. If he started last year in shape, he might have come back and won that award last year over Jokic. Luka is a special talent. This will be the year he goes out, he grabs that crown and starts to begin, I guess I should say, his trophy collection in the NBA. He's going to get that most valuable player award this year in the NBA. So, Jarrett, rookie of the year, who you got?
My rookie of the year is Paolo Banchero of the Orlando Magic. We didn't get too deep into our rankings with some of the bottom teams in the East, but I actually had Orlando a lot higher than probably what a lot of other people would have them at. And I think a big reason is Banchero. I think he's a player that can come into that organization right away and have an immediate positive impact. And I'm also hoping so because I drafted him in my Dynasty NBA league this year. So I'm hoping years of success for Mr. Banchero, including a strong rookie campaign, considering that it's like a $25 league and I would like to make that money, especially considering how my fantasy football track record is not going as expected this year. So we need to make some money back. Banchero is my rookie of the year.
I'm with you, man. In this rookie of the year race, this might be the boring pick, but I'm right there with Paolo Banchero. And I currently don't see another big time rookie in a situation where he's going to be able to get the run, except down in Orlando. No one else is going to be able to kind of live and fail and learn as they go throughout the season. Then Paolo, I will say my sleeper pick is going to be Keegan Murray of Sacramento. I think he's going to be right there in the conversation as well, kind of like how Franz Wagner popped up for Orlando last year and just kind of was in those power rankings throughout the entire season. I think if Paolo stays healthy, plays throughout the year, he should easily have the numbers to take home this award. So I'm right there with Paolo. So defensive player of the year, Jared, who do you got taking that one home?
My defensive player of the year, I have Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like I said, the Bucks are my first seed this year,
Yep.
and a large part of that obviously is Giannis's play. Maybe he won't get the MVP votes this year like he would just because he's won two, in relative recent years.
Mhm.
But why not be very high in the defensive player of the year rankings? Giannis is a fantastic defensive player. And his size and ability just makes it so much easier for him to be so effective on that end. Trust me, as a Bulls fan that had to watch a 5-game playoff series last year, he was a big part of why we could not get to the rim and why DeMar DeRozan was seemingly just helpless at all times because he was like the only player the Bulls could rely on for offense at times.
Absolutely, man. So I know about defensive player of the year. A lot of the times it comes down to reputation, comes down to headline, comes down to just who is the name in that conversation. And I might be the only one that has been doing it, but I've been speaking it into existence for the last couple of years, and I'm going to continue to try to speak it into existence. Bam Adebayo deserves to be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. I'm biased. I think this has been growing for a few years now. Give me Bam. He's one of the most versatile defenders in this league. He can stick it to centers that are bigger than him. He can also keep up with some of the shiftier guards in the NBA. The time is now for Bam. He has to stay healthy, though, in order to get those highlights, those headlines needed to win this award. I'm going with Bam down in South Beach. It's time for Bam Bam season. He's getting that Defensive Player of the Year. It's happening this year. Sixth Man of the Year. Who you got this year?
I got Jordan Poole. That guy is playing for a contract extension, and he was one of the most pleasantly surprising players in the playoffs in terms of just their progression as a player. I got Jordan Poole on that Warriors squad.
I'm not mad at that pick. Not mad at that pick at all. For anybody who's been following along for a year, know that I absolutely nailed this pick last year. So if you would have put some money down, I would have made you some money last season as far as an NBA futures bet. And we're going back. We're going right back to back. Tyler Hero. He ran away with this award last year, beginning to end. I called it
close.
Let's run it back. But he now has the confidence. He now has that security of a really nice contract in Miami. He's there for the long term. He knows he's not going anywhere. He's going to continue to ball out and grow in this offense. The only reason I see him not grabbing this award is if he plays himself into the starting lineup, which is very possible in Miami. So there could be a situation where he finds himself starting over Max Strus and the way they kind of work their starting lineup down there and kind of takes him out of contention for the Sixth Man of the Year. In that case, I'm with you, Jordan Poole. But as long as Tyler Hero is coming off the bench, he's the man to win this award. Coach of the Year, who you got, Jared?
This guy was pretty high in our rankings last year, many times, and I have Tyronn Lue. The Clippers are my number 1 seed in the West, and Lue kept that Clippers roster afloat for most of the season where Paul George missed like 75% of it, and Kawhi Leonard was a no-show, still rehabbing from that ACL tear in the playoffs the year prior. Tyronn Lue is a great coach, and this Clippers roster is back fully loaded with former All-Star John Wall. I don't see any reason why it would be anyone else.
I got you. I'm with Ty Lue as well, because if I'm sticking with the Clippers at the top of my West, I have to give him the Coach of the Year pick to Ty Lue. I think he more than has the ability to coach a great team. We've seen it in the past. He's won a championship with those LeBron Cavaliers. The last few years, he just hasn't had his stars with him. If he has those stars with him on the court, he can easily come up and grab this award. So I'm with you. We are going to be drafting our top 5 breakout players in the NBA this season here on the TML podcast. So, Jared, I'm going to give you first pick. I'm going to let you go.
All right.
We'll just kind of run through it. So who do you got as kind of your first breakout player?
All right. With this first pick, I'm going to have to take Anthony Edwards of the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think this guy could be an all-star this year, so I think that's a no-brainer first pick for breakout players.
I'm all right to let you have that. That's fine because I'm going to take Zion Williamson. I'm going to give me Zion as my number 1 pick here as a breakout for this next season. So I'm just fine with you taking Anthony Edwards. He wasn't even on my list. He's all yours.
All right.
So who you got in that number 2?
My number 2, I'm going to take Scotty Barnes. We've talked about it before. Toronto needs a star. Scotty Barnes could be it.
Scotty Barnes. That's all right. I'm fine with that. Because I'm going with my man. I've been on the record for a while. Give me Cade Cunningham. Give me all the Cade Cunningham. I am in on Cade.
All right. Well, if you're going to take Cade, I'm going to take Banchero. I think this Magic team's going to be pretty in good hands with Banchero. I think he's going to have a big rookie year.
Banchero, okay. That's fine. This one might be controversial. Give me Ben Simmons.
Oh,
Give me the revival of Ben Simmons, the
okay.
comeback nature of Ben Simmons. I like how he's talking in the media. He's talking of, he's making his point across. Give me Ben Simmons.
All right. So then for my fourth pick, I'm gonna have to take Jalen Green. I don't know if this is because I'm starting to feel the Houston vibes as I prepare to move down there in a couple weeks. But Jalen Green, Houston needs a hero, and he might be it.
Man, he was on my list too. That's the first one you've stolen from me so far. Um, I'm gonna go Tyrese Maxey. Give me Tyrese Maxey with the 76ers. I see big things for him. And I think with the role that James Harden's going to play, he's got an opportunity to really be the number 2 scorer on that team. So I see a big season coming up for Tyrese Maxey.
All right. With my final pick of the draft, shout out Cerruti on the ringer. I'm gonna have to go with Franz Wagner.
Franz Wagner.
Franz Wagner. He was one of the very pleasantly surprising rookies that kind of just tied that class together as a very solid rookie class. And I think with another year under his belt and probably an increased role on that team, Wagner could be one of the breakout players of the season.
I'm not mad at that. And that leaves me with 2 choices that I had left. Give me Christian Wood of the Dallas Mavericks. I think we saw his potential a few years ago, and it was just kind of stunted by the lack of players around him. I think in a winning culture with the Mavericks and alongside Luka Doncic, I think he could have a really good season. So give me Christian
I like that
Wood.
pick.
Give me Christian Wood
pick.
in that 5 spot. All right, so we are going to draft things that are worse around the NBA than the ESPN Top 100 list. So let's see what we can come up with.
And there weren't a lot, so this was a tough list to build.
Yeah, what is worse than that list? So I'm going to go ahead and give you first pick, Jared. What you got?
My first pick, I'm going to be honest, it's the Nike Statement and City Edition jerseys. Can we stop? We stop? We got to stop with that.
Man.
They're some of the ones that this year especially are so bad.
Yeah, you are not.
Minnesota. You guys had the classic throwbacks of like the Garnett era, and now you have whatever the hell that white jersey with the colors on it is.
I'm gonna let you have that. You have been on the hill for those jerseys. You have been not a fan of those jerseys. So for my number 1 overall pick, I'm going to go with Skip Bayless's NBA takes.
Oh, that's good.
I'm going to go that's one thing that's worse in the ESPN Top 100. That's to me
really good.
That is my number 1 overall pick. I'm so happy you didn't go down that road. That's mine 100%.
That's a good pick, man. I'm jealous.
Absolutely. It's a good one. Should be.
All right. For my second pick of the draft, I have Midwest fall weather. I'm not a big fan of the cold.
That's a hot take.
I've lived in Northern Illinois my whole life, and the second the summer 80s go away, I am a sad man. So sad that I'm doing probably the most spontaneous thing I've ever done in my life, and I'm moving to Houston. It's still in the 80s there.
That's a hot take.
It is 40 here today. It was in the 30s last night.
That's a hot take.
I'm tired of it, man, because September sometimes it's like in the 80s the whole time. And then you get to October and it's still a little warm. That didn't happen this year. It was like the second day got September is like, okay, 70s, 60s. I'm like, come on, man. I'm going to Houston, 80s. I am putting Midwest fall weather as my second pick. It's the worst. Awful.
My second overall pick, I got to go with the leadership in the Lakers front office. To me, that is way worse than the ESPN Top 100 because that is just, I feel like I could run it better myself. And that's saying something. So
2K tells me I'd run it better too.
It's pretty damn bad. It is ridiculous at this point. So to me, that's the Lakers front office is worse.
All right. So for my third overall pick in the draft, I have 1998 Jerry Krause. The short little man had the biggest ego that he tore up quite possibly the greatest modern sports dynasty in modern American sports over an ego. Sure, the Bulls are old, but if you keep Phil Jackson, you guaranteed have Michael Jordan for another season, who we saw was still making all-star teams into his 40s. Well, maybe Jordan could have been doing that on the Bulls while not being retired in 1999, 2000, and 2001, and probably could have played his career through 2003 and still have a relationship with the organization till this day. But no, you scorned the greatest player the NBA has ever seen that played for your organization exclusively up until that point because you thought organizations won championships, not just the players who had to play all 82 games so you could hoist 6 trophies. Am I salty even though I wasn't really around till like early 98? No, not at all.
Oh man, my third overall pick. This one might be a cheap shot. No pun intended. I'm going to go with Jordan Poole's awareness. Like, man, you got to be aware. You got to understand who you're dealing with, who you're pushing away from you. You got to be better than that, obviously. So I'm going to go with Jordan Poole's awareness. It's my third overall pick.
All right. My fourth overall pick. And honestly, this one might have fallen in the draft. I have the current Chicago Bears wide receiver and O-line. I don't know about you. I watched that Bears game, and then I was at a friend's house, and I went home after the second to last drive because I thought, oh, that's the last drive we lost. Because what's his face, number 17, who fumbled instead of going out of bounds last week as we're going for the win, caught the pass with his face, or attempted to catch the pass with his face. The O-line makes everyone else think Justin Fields is worse than what he really is. I'm not sure how much of this is Justin Fields' fault because the O-line lets him get pressured more than like any other quarterback in the league. And wide receivers just can't catch the ball. They're like practice squad players. And it's tough being a Bears fan. I'm trying to see if we have a real quarterback here, and I don't know. I can't tell. I want a quarterback, man.
With my fourth overall pick, it might be another cheap shot that I'm going with, and just going after the video that went viral in the last few days. Just give me Ben Simmons' jump shot. Just keep it nice and simple. Something that's worse than that list. Just give me Ben Simmons' jump shot. And I have been supporting him recently. It's a bad look, my guy. It's a bad look, my guy. Give me the jump shot.
All right. My fifth and final pick of this draft, Derrick Rose on the Knicks. Get him off of there. The Knicks are wasting him. I want him home. I want him back in Chicago. He can shoot. Honestly, he would fill kind of the gap that the Bulls are missing, which is scoring off the bench when DeRozan and LaVine aren't in the game. Despite him being 15 years in and all the injuries, is still pretty decent on the offensive end, and he kind of has a serviceable three-point shot now. Please, Knicks, buy out Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose, come home. Hey, we'll give you a younger guard. We'll give you Kobe White. We'll trade Kobe White. Please, just bring Derrick Rose home. Just him being on the Knicks is so much worse than anything ESPN 100 can put out.
So this one, I got two options that I could go to for my fifth and final pick here. And just because of the severity of the last few years and how loud it has been, I got to go Celtics fans. Celtics fans are worse than that list, 100%. And I'm really happy to pick them up here in the fifth round because I think it's a high value pick right there at the end of the draft. So I'll take Celtics fans off the list. So now it's time for our favorite segment on the Tee 'em Up podcast, and that is, of course, Tee 'em Up, handing out some technical fouls here right before the regular season starts. So, Jarrett, who's getting your technical foul this week?
I'm teeing up this page called the 538. They just posted like a whole preseason prediction kind of thing. And my God, it burned my eyes. The main point of contention is they had my Chicago Bulls at 11th. 11?
Oh, out of the play-in?
Out of the play-in, not even the bottom of the play-in. Do you want to hear the immediate, do you want to hear the play-in teams they had?
Yeah. Give me the four in the East.
So the four teams in the play-in are the Nets. Okay.
Ooh.
The Cavs, which I did have the Cavs, although they had the Cavs one spot lower than I had them, which even I'm like, I don't like the Cavs at 7. They should be higher, but I don't want them higher. The Hornets at 9.
Hornets. Ooh.
And just insult to injury, like as a Bulls fan, and just they have the Knicks over us at 10. The Knicks?
Ooh, interesting.
Did DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine fall off the face of the earth? What
Interesting.
happened here?
That's not good.
Also, another weird thing, they had the Celtics at 1, probably just not understanding how important coaching is to that team. They had the Hawks at 2, which
Yeah.
you gotta laugh
No,
at that. That they have the Heat at 3, Sixers at 4, Raptors at 5, Bucks at 6. I haven't even looked at
Raptors over Bucks.
There's a lot of question marks. I'm just what is the thought process here? I have to know, like, the Bulls at 11. We have a player that was on the All NBA second team, had the greatest season of his career. Zach LaVine, what if he remained healthy that whole season, was gonna be on the All NBA third team? Like, we have 2 All NBA level talent level players. I can't talk. I'm just so upset by this. You have the Chicago Bulls at 11th, team up 538. I've never heard of them.
That's a rough one.
And I don't want to hear about them again. If I had to say things that the NBA top 100 list is better than, it is better than this, because this is bad. This is, oh God, I'm heated. I am heated.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
Shout out to Twitter for showing me this today.
I am teeing up Jeanie Buss and Rob Pelinka, the two of them together. Look, it's no secret that I'm a LeBron fan, and in his last few seasons in the league, and who knows how long he'll actually be at the top of his game and still being the level of player that he is now, I want nothing more than to see him have a chance to contend. Just give him a chance. Build a roster around him while he's still in the league. This roster is a joke, to just put it simply. Westbrook, Beverly, Dennis Schroeder on the same roster. No shooters whatsoever. The lack of urgency to trade Russ, even for Hield and Turner, if that trade is even still out there, which at this point, probably not. They wouldn't even take it. The inability to admit that you made a mistake. This is primed to explode. And for me, this is just exemplary of the terrible Lakers front office that has been that way for a while now. You were fortunate LeBron chose to come to you. LeBron could have went anywhere. He chose to come to the Lakers. He delivered you a championship to now tie you with the Boston Celtics for the most championships in NBA history. You've done nothing in the front office to earn the respect that you have around the league as, they're one of the premier franchises, because they're not run like it. They're not. Boston, well run. I hate them. Well run. Make great decisions all the time. You've done nothing. And not to mention, while doing it, you then throw your player who came over to deliver you a championship under the bus by saying, well, LeBron wanted to trade all those people away. Did he want to trade everybody away after they won the championship? I'm not sure he wanted to so much. He said Russ might have been a good fit. And you know what? He's not the general manager at the end of the day. LeBron made the decision to come to you. Rob Pelinka, you got that position because of your relationship with Kobe and your relationship with the Lakers front office. What have you done? Magic brought LeBron there. You didn't. So this roster is a joke. It was a joke last season, and the fact that they have made no moves to even try to change it is an absolute joke. I have no better way to put it. Just a technical foul. Jeanie Buss and Rob Pelinka, the decision makers in that Lakers front office.
Aside from the Lakers starting lineup, you could swap the rosters with the South Bay Lakers, and I don't think there'd be much of a difference.
A lot of the players that they brought in on these 10-day deals were some of the best players that we saw in the Lakers last season. I don't even know how to say it. Wenyen Gabriel, he was great. He was great for the Lakers. Fantastic.
That's all a G-League player, man.
He was great. He was fantastic. Austin Reeves was balling last season. And the fact that you have to say
player,
the fact that you have to say these names were some of the best Lakers last season, that's a problem. Because you're not a premier franchise if you're not run like it.
One of the best Lakers last season isn't even on the roster. Isn't even on any roster. Carmelo is a free agent. Bulls, sign him. He can shoot. We need shooters. Sign Carmelo Anthony.
It makes no sense. So technical foul to the Lakers front office.
I would say that's well-deserved.
That's all we have this week for the TM Up podcast. I want to thank you guys all for joining us. I know there's a lot of things going on, a lot of things to get through here before the start of the season. So we thank you guys all for hanging with us. We'll be sure to format everything as we move forward a little bit more precise, but there's a lot of things to say to get things out. So thank you guys all for joining us. We're looking forward to year 2 here of the TM Up podcast. It's going to be a lot of fun. So be sure to follow along.
And as always, remember, the Bulls aren't going to be the 11th seed.